Okay, looks like we are all up and running and things are looking good. I'm going to have to probably mute this page quickly here too, so just give me a second to get all this stuff going, but very much excited to do this and also to tell you guys what we're doing next week too. It's posted there, and then we'll get it all going here. All right, so welcome on in, everybody. Welcome in, everybody. We've got a list of questions today too, so even if you're not watching live but you're watching this later, you will also be able to get a bunch of questions answered too. So just like our normal live stream, like we've done in previous or in the past, we will have I have a bunch of questions here from the Discord server, and then we will do live questions also in the chat as well. Usually it takes a little bit of time for people to kind of flood in, as it were. I'm also starting just a little bit early, which is fine too. Turn this down a little bit. There we go. All right. And let's see. Trying to get this all set up how I like it, and that's what's always tough. Okay, I think we're good to go. So I released the new audio track today. It was the Forbidden Web from Black Wukong. So that's exciting. Interested to see how that goes. It's, of course, it's a Chinese themed video game, not a Japanese one, but still, nonetheless, I think it will be interesting to see how it gets interpreted and if people like it or not. I know my video gaming students like it. They've told me. I wish I had more time to play all the video games and stuff. There's such cool things out there right now. Turn this up a little bit too. Okay, so that should give us RIP headphone users. All right. Okay, well, let's just jump into it right away. So, of course, I've been doing a lot of these live streams to advertise the flute giveaways that we're doing. So, of course, I'm giving away 4 flutes upcoming. So I'll do my quick little spiel there, and then we'll get into the other stuff. So the end of September, it's coming soon. So we'll have about 5 weeks from now. I'll be giving away the first flute 11 a.m. on September 30th. The second flute is given away on the 25th of November. And then the third flute is on the 27th. And I promise I will let you guys know eventually what's going to happen with the fourth flute, because it will be kind of special. But we'll talk about that when we get there. So if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, I'm giving away 4 of the beginner flutes made by Yozan. I have them back here this time because I'm going to be answering some more technical questions today. So I want to use my personal flutes. But basically on this server, there's also not just the subscription, but there's also the membership. So if you hit that join button, you'll see a bunch of membership options that come up. If you want a chance to win one of these beginner flutes, then sign up for the membership. The lowest level, the Shoden Trial, gives you 1 ticket. The second level gives you 2 tickets. The third level gives you 5, and then the last level, the 4th level, there gives you 10. I am working on stuff for the 5th and 6th level, but I need to finish the 4th level first. But basically, what I'm deciding to do for the 4th level is going to be a general Japanese music history series, and so it'll be basically what follows along like college courses and stuff like that. I have a textbook picked out that I want to use for it, and then the last one I haven't decided yet, but it's in progress of things in the future. So that's not going to be for a while, but I thought I would just kind of put it out there as a spoiler, I suppose. Also, the goal for the end of it's the end of next year that I have this goal. The goal was to be to 15,000 subscribers. In just the last 28 days, though, we've gained about 1,000 subscribers. So now we are at 11,700 subscribers. So very, very happy very honored that you guys come out to subscribe to the channel, support, leaving likes and comments. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. The goal is to get people on board with learning shakuhachi and playing shakuhachi, loving shakuhachi, sharing shakuhachi with others, all that kind of stuff. So, let's go ahead and jump in with some of the questions. Welcome in, Audrey. Good to see you. And if you have questions for this live stream, please feel free to add them into the chat here. And we'll kind of jump back and forth between the questions that are in the Discord and questions that are into the live stream. Welcome back again, Vincent. Good to see you here. I hope that more of your colleagues from the membership join in as well to ask their questions about, maybe it's even about the Shoden books and stuff like that. Okay, so getting started here, we're going to look at one question, which is developing finger movement. And this is a almost kind of like a thematic thing that's gonna go throughout this live streams, that we're gonna talk a lot about kind of like fingering techniques and stuff like that too. But so the easiest way for me to explain kind of quickly about developing your finger movement, finger dexterity, is basically it's how people move on the flute. What I've noticed that happens for a lot of people is when they try to learn a piece, they're very stiff when they move, right? And rather than having this really stiff motion from one step to the next, we rather want to be more like this kind of natural motion. So, okay, now we have the old Renzo mug. Now, so if you guys want to have an updated Taidu mug, you can get that in the Taidu Shakuhachi store. But let's say you're going to go and reach for a mug. You don't jerk your hand out. Hey, how's it going, Copy Ninja? You don't jerk your hand out and then, like, jerk your hand forward, with everything like these types of motions, right? No, you slowly move the hand away and you slowly move the hand towards you, more of a fluid motion. And that should be the same type of movement for when we play the shakuhachi, is that everything should be fluid. It was Bruce Lee who just said, be like water, right? So these sort of watery movements, being very light on the grip. So with those things in mind, to develop your finger movement, I would recommend thinking about moving more fluidly and with more in, like, rather than trying to like force the hand into a direction. Now, they're like those sort of exercises of jerking motions, of opening the hand and closing the hand like this. Those are really important. But when we're into playing, smooth motions, light grip. Okay. Next question, and let's see. Next question is, why does my sound break to kan or stop when I get louder? And this is a pretty common thing that happens too with a lot of people when they're playing shakuhachi. So they might try to come here to like, and they get that, or, and then the sound breaks if they try to get louder. The simple answer for this is actually that there's just too much tension too quickly. So what's happening is you're closing the embouchure so quickly that you're actually skipping the optimal point to get that sound that you're wanting. So when you're trying to go loud, instead of just like what they would say, ikinari, okiku oto deru yoni, instead of that, like just trying to get at the sound as big as you can, as fast as you can, slowly work your dynamics. And then you'll be able to get to that sound, more accurately. And then like something with like kan, start just with playing it softly. Because most likely, for the person who's asking this question, most likely what you're doing is you're forcing air out, or you're tightening the embouchure too quickly. So in the forcing the air out, you might get, right, like that kind of sound. You run out of air so quickly because you're just pushing out volume, right? Rather than really trying to focus on where does that note sit on the shakuhachi. Where does this, like that, for example, that bei kan, where does it sit on the instrument? Ah for shape, for the tongue shape. U for the shape of the lips. Ah, u. And you find where that note lives, right, and where it wants to be. Okay, Audrey is asking a follow-up question on this. Does it take the same amount of breath to go from Otsu to Kan and Kan to Daikon? Or is it really just a matter of tightening the embouchure and adjusting the shakuhachi? It is just a matter of tightening the utaguchi, right, and with your embouchure. So actually, that's all the same amount of air. I'm just tightening and loosening on the embouchure to get those 3 separate octaves. Okay. What is it like to live and perform in Japan? Oh, it's a big question. I'll kind of keep it a little bit short and sweet. And if you guys have more for follow-up questions about that, then we can go over it. So I would say that living in Japan there's a lot of tough things about it, actually. There's a lot of things that are very, very difficult. Even if you're used to the cultural differences, it can really be hard to navigate just daily life things, just because certain things are tough and they're just different, and it's hard to explain it. It's hard to explain it, and would just be easier to say, come here and give it a try and try living here. But it's actually not that bad in general. I would say that it's there are things that are very cheap, and then there's things that are very expensive, like money wise, and it is what it is. But I would say that in general it's fairly easy to live, and I enjoy it. I love I mean, I don't like taking public transportation anymore. I used to do it all the time, but now that I have 2 kids, I drive everywhere, and all of the stuff, driving wise, it's no problem here. Drew. I don't know if you guys know who Drew is, but Drew is a violinist extraordinaire. So you should definitely go check him out. Just type in Drew Chaddick on YouTube, and you'll hear some beautiful music. But let's talk a little bit about the performing part of Japan, and because this is where I think things are a lot different. Performing in Japan, it's not nearly as fruitful as let's say like performing in America. Like performing in America is like, you can get concerts everywhere, you can get paid very well. Again, if you're business savvy and you know how to make connections with people, you know how to make friends with donors and do all that kind of stuff, like the hustle. Japan is quite different, and it's not uncommon for people to go negative on their concerts and lose money. It's tough. You want to be the person who is invited to the concert, not the person who's setting up the concert. So that part is probably the most difficult. And I remember there was concerts I did where I was like, I only made $200, and they're like, no, you made $200. I'm like, what are you talking? Like, why do you make it sound like it's impressive? It's like, well, most of the time we go negative. I'm like, what? So, even you get up like 50, 60 people to come to your concert. After you've paid all the fees, you've taken everybody out to dinner, you did all this stuff, you rented the hall, you printed out all the things, you paid for people's rehearsal times, you end up going negative. And so it's a very challenging thing here in Japan. There's a concert I have coming up on September 7th, and I just was talking to everybody at the rehearsal today, and they were like, yeah, we have 55 people. And I'm like, but I thought the cap was 40. And like, yeah, well, we actually wanted to make some money, so we extended it to 55 people, and we got them. So hopefully hopefully everybody shows up, and we have that concert going, and it's going to be really good. Copy Ninja, welcome to the Shoden Trial Level. Good to have you. And SYD, hey, how's it going? Let's go to the next question. Do you have a favorite hiking spot when you go out? Oh, such a great question. So for those who are maybe either new to the channel or just kind of only pop in every once in a while, one of my big things I love doing, I love taking my students is on hikes. I love taking my students on hikes and playing shakuhachi out in the wild. And I think that probably my favorite hike is the one that is by my wife's grandfather's house. It's a short little hour and a half hike, but it by the time you're 20 minutes in, you are completely like it looks like you've been hiking for a day. There's no roads. Everything's dirt paths, and sometimes the path isn't there. But it's not so far out that if something happened, you'd be royally effed, right? It's a great hike, and you experience so much. There's bamboo forest and stuff like that. I actually think that on my channel, in one of the daily life as a shakuhachi player, that it's in there, because I usually do a hike the day before I do a concert. Okay, now we have a question that was written on the Discord from Megus. And remember here too, in the live chat, you're also welcome to ask the questions here. Hey, Megus, I see that you're watching. Great to have you here. And so we'll get to those questions, but please feel free to ask them here. I'll jump back and forth between the two. But before we get to Megus' question, I just want to pop in that extra advertisement. That's right, I sponsored my own video. So down right below here is the join button. You can join the membership. You can become a member of this channel. You get access to a bunch of lessons about shakuhachi, how to play, all that kind of stuff. So check that out. And when you sign up for the membership, you also have a chance of winning a flute. I'm giving away 4 brand new beginner shakuhachi flutes by Yozan. They're all bamboo. They're beautiful. They're fantastic. I cover the shipping for them. You don't get hit with any extra charges. I just send you the thing. And if you go to the first level, it's 1 ticket. The second level, it's 2 tickets. The third level, it's 5 tickets. The fourth level, it's 10 tickets. The stuff afterwards, don't worry about right now. Okay, so let's go on to Megus' question. Now that you're Meo Daishihan, do you still have lessons with your teacher, and what do you practice? I do not have lessons with my teacher. I do not have lessons with anybody, really. It's not really about learning more pieces or anything like that. Rather, it's more about perspective. But every once in a while, I'll go around and I'll take a lesson with another master. For example, most recently, Nick Belando and I have been giving each other lessons. He taught me the piece Shinkoku in the Neizasa style, and I'll be teaching him Ukigumo coming up soon. So I like doing stuff like that. I also like playing for other Japanese masters who are really famous and have a lot of insight. So they give me perspective on playing. And so that's mainly what I'm working with right now. Practice-wise, I only practice the things that I have for concerts. Mainly, I can maintain a pretty high level from just teaching my students. So, every single day I'm playing from anywhere from 4 to 8 hours, working with my students one-on-one. So that's Monday through Friday. So I have plenty of time with the flute in hands, and that actually gives me even more insight than just a regular practice session. A lot of times my students will do the mistakes that I do because they're copying my sound and doing all that kind of stuff. And then I realize, like, oh, the reason why I don't like the sound is because you're copying what I'm doing and I don't like what I'm doing. So I can go back and fix that. So that's the really great part of teaching all of my students. Okay, Vincent, who's also in the chat here, has a question on the Discord. Do the so-called straight shakuhachi sound different from the curved ones? Oh, so this is a very interesting question, because I actually wonder this myself too, in more of like a scientific way. And so I'll give you my answer on what I think it is. I think that the answer is no, they don't sound different. And I think the reason why is because, so that the really curved shakuhachis, you see that with like Yamaguchi Shido flutes. And Yamaguchi Shido has a very specific sound with his flutes. And when I've played the curved ones and the straight ones, they do sound similar. They both have that really deep, kind of warm, resonant sound, kind of like, that image of what you have with the Kinko sound because of like Yamaguchi Goro. So there's that. But then I've played, other people's flutes who have that, like, a really big curve, and it doesn't have that sound at all. When I was talking to Yozan about this, actually, about having flutes that are curved, and I asked him, like, what do you think about, does it change the sound and stuff or anything? He goes, no, it just makes it a pain in the ass to make it, because that curved part of the bore lengthens the flute, and trying to get the tools in to carve it out to make it more difficult. So really, when I see a well-made curved flute at the end, like when it's very, very curved, I'm actually just more impressed that the person was able to make the flute, because I know how difficult it is to get the tools in there to shape the bore how you want, especially if it's a chinashi. So, but yeah, in general, I don't think that it really makes a huge difference in the sound of the instrument. But great question. Okay, Audrey, who is also here in the live stream, so welcome in to both of you. Thank you guys for being here. She asked this question. I heard that some masters practice robuki for a full hour every day. Is there benefit in doing it as a beginner? And if so, can you add variations like kan nodo, dai kan nodo, and the rounded mountain, which is one of the exercises I teach in my studio? Okay. Now, if you were to ask like someone like Kakizakai, he's going to be practicing robuki every single day. And when then he has a concert coming up, he's going to double down on his robuki. That's his way of doing it. That's his pattern. You can talk to other masters and they'll say, no, I don't really do robuki that often, right? I'll do it with my students, or, I'll, do a little bit of it here and there, but it's not like a daily practice for me. So, I mean, is there a benefit to it? Absolutely, especially as a beginner. As a beginner, you should be doing the robuki. You should be doing the long tones, and you should be practicing that. And even like professionals too. I mean, I do my robuki. I do that with my students every single day, and maybe not every single student will do it with me, but I choose one or two people every single day who I'm going to be teaching. And I say, hey, I haven't heard your roll in a while. Let's do some robuki together, and let's work on that a little bit. So yeah. Has a great help for your sound and for the development of your playing, and it is an absolute necessity for beginners. Now, to the second part of your question, adding variations, is like yes. All the variations that you can think of with it are fantastic. The more that you're playing those rows and feeling where they are, and what you're doing is you're also finding. Like here, this is where my robuki fits in the otsu register. This is where it fits in the kan in the upper register, and this is where it fits in the daikon register, and like how it feels and so on and so forth, and developing those sounds. So yeah, there's a lot of really really good stuff that you can do. And also another thing is vary your robuki. It doesn't always have to be just a big loud sound. Think more about the resonance of the tone, and in creating a let's say a more rounder and fuller sound, rather than just kind of like a blaring sound. Sorry, I have to get my tea. It was actually from my rehearsal today with the pianist. So shout out to the pianist. Thank you for the tea. So what I mean by that, by the way, is sometimes when we play those tunes, we'll do something like that. We just blare out the row. So again, headphone users, I'm sorry, I should have warned you before I did that, but too late. But instead of just always going for a really big, chunky row, think of like a kind of that round, deep sounding row. And like the high octave daikon, like gonoha, if you can play that one really soft and really long, that's a really great practice. Very, very good practice to do. Helps with your control of your instrument. Okay, we're going to keep going on to the Discord. If you have any questions, who people are watching the live stream, or if you're just enjoying the questions as they come, feel free to pop in and so on and so forth to ask questions. Ollie, it's so interesting that you ask your question here. I was about ready to get to your question over here in the Discord. So we'll do your question here first, and then we'll go back to your Discord question because it's related here. So what duration should you be aiming for in each breath? Okay. I don't think you're not gonna want to like have something like really short. Like, you don't want like 2 or 3 seconds. You don't want to be just like throwing air out and then just, kind of what I saw wasting the breath. When it comes to like the really big sounds, like really, when I'm talking like a chunky row, maybe like 7 or 8 seconds. That would be really, really good for a big chunky row. Now, if you have one that's just like deep and resonant, 15, 16 seconds, that would be like, professional level, really going and pushing like as long as you can, right? That's why I think those would be really great numbers to go. So full power, 8 seconds, kind of like your more resonant playing, double it, 16 seconds, something like that. I only give those specific numbers because of phrasing. Like, you're never going to play a phrase that, at least that I'm aware of, that's one breath that's more than 20 seconds long in shakuhachi. And if there is one and I'm just not thinking of it, it's probably fairly rare. But yeah, so there you have it there. So let's get to Ollie's question now that was on the Discord. So he says here, I have problems with chapped lips and also some reddening of the skin below my mouth. Is this a common problem, and what to do? I am a raw beginner. My favorite type. Having got my Yozan 1.8 at the start of July. Well, congratulations on your Yozan. I hope you're loving it and enjoying it, and hopefully I can help you. Okay. So, thing number one, I think that this is not it, because Yozan cures his urushi very well. But you may have a very acute sensitivity to urushi, right? Which is the specific lacquer that they use on the inside of the flute. So that lacquer is from the same species or the same like genus of like oak tree or poison oak and poison ivy. It's related, right? And so it has that kind of itching quality. I've touched raw urushi before, and I've got a little bit of like flaky skin, a little bit of redness on my fingers and stuff like that, but nothing really like major. Some people have such a bad allergy to urushi that they'll puff up, like the whole body puffs up, and it's very serious and it's awful. It's itchy. Your face is hot to the touch and you feel awful. So you might have an acute allergy to urushi, but I think it's unlikely because of how he cures the flutes, and it's not likely that you bought a flute that he had just finished and then didn't have enough time to dry. It's unlikely. So what I think is actually the issue is that you're probably pushing the flute into the face too hard. And you really shouldn't be pushing into the face really at all. It should really be the instrument is setting onto the chin lightly. And so that's why I think you're getting the redness here, and kind of the irritation and the discomfort as well. Now, as for the chapped lips, the first thing I'm going to recommend is that go check out the product called Chop Saver. I don't have any with me here, I don't think, but the guy who's owns the company, the guy who started it, is a friend of mine, and he's a really nice guy. He's a professional musician. He's a trumpet player, and he used himself as the testing rabbit, I suppose, for this product. So he would make a chapstick and put it on himself, and his wife had told me that there was just days that his face would just puff up and say, "Nope, that is not the recipe we're using." But it was designed by musicians for musicians. They don't sponsor me. I don't get any money if you buy products from them. But I would highly recommend that you go check out Chop Saver, because actually one of my friends who's a beatboxer uses them too. He says that's very good. But that should actually go away over time. You're probably just producing a lot more saliva than you're used to because you're playing the flute, and it'll get better over time. Okay, so here we go. We have a couple questions from Linus here. Yes, Ollie, thank you for asking the question here as well. Really appreciate that. So Linus asks here, one, what genre of music do you think needs more shakuhachi? Oh, that's such a good question. I'll put it this way. I think that actually anime music needs more shakuhachi. And things that are also Japanese related. So, for example, any Japanese films or anything that has, to do with like samurai and so on. I've heard lots of, films that have come out that are like about Nobunaga Nawa wow, I cannot speak today. Any of the great warlords of the past, right, in Japan, samurai stuff and stuff, and that are recent, by the way, and those films, they use lots of orchestral instruments and Western sounds, and every once in a while, I think you'll hear koto pretty commonly, but you don't really hear a lot of shakuhachi. Not that I like watch every single samurai film that's out there, but in my general like perusing and stuff, I don't hear as much shakuhachi in those films as I would like to hear. Also, just I think that those are the ones I would like to hear because you expect it there and it's not there, and that's the greatest place to feature it. Video games do pretty well with shakuhachi though, and I'm not just talking about like Ghost of Tsushima. Like Sekiro also uses shakuhachi music. Nioh too. Nioh as well uses shakuhachi in their themes as well. So, but I love that feudal stuff, like feudal Japan, Sengoku era, early Edo, even like late Heian stuff is like I really like that kind of thing. That's why I loved Sekiro so much because you got so many different kind of time periods in Japan in one game. Nioh as well. I love the whole entire format and stuff like that. I'm looking forward to Assassin's Creed as well, and I hope that Assassin's Creed does shakuhachi stuff in there. So if any of the Assassin's Creed team is watching, hire me please. I'll play the shakuhachi part for you. Okay. Mark Sasavuki also says airlines need some shakuhachi options in their playlist. Maybe I need to reach out to some people and just be like, hey, I'll give you some CDs for people to listen to. All right, here we go. Next one. Next question from Linus is, who or what are you listening to lately? So I actually don't listen to as much music because I'm so busy teaching and playing and recording and doing all this stuff. So as much as I would like to say that I'm listening to music all the time, I'm not, because I really need a break from it. I need to have the brain break to clear the space, as it were. What am I listening to? I'd probably say like the most recent thing that I've been listening to is I listened to a lot of bluegrass recently. That's probably what I've been listening to the most. So it might not have been the answer that you're expecting, but it's the answer I'm giving. But lots of bluegrass. SYD says, actually, a lot of pop music sound pretty cool with shakuhachi acting as a traditional saxophone, kind of. Yeah, I think there's a lot of really good, like, for example, wagaki bands. That shakuhachi sounds great. There's also, like, some other composers who use, like, shakuhachi VSTs, like virtual instruments. And when they put them in their pop songs, too, they sound pretty good. He also says, like the Bamboo Tube do on YouTube, that channel did great on that. Bamboo Tube, are you talking about Bamboo Orchestra, perhaps? But yeah, there's a lot of good players out there. All right, Next question from Linus. Linus has 4, so we're 2 down, 2 to go. What, for playing live, which do you prefer? Standing mics or a mic attached to the instrument or / to your face? Standing mics. Because when the flute is so close to the mic, you're gonna get a lot of those airy colors too. But I think it's oversaturated. So I like the mics to be more so it'd be like if you were standing closer rather than actually being right up next to my face. So I think it's a much more natural sound, and I've had much better results with that. I don't like having like a microphone here on my face too, because for example, if you have to sneeze or cough, that goes into the mic as well directly. At least if the mic is like here or in front of you, you can turn around, cough, and then come back, and it won't be that big of an issue. But when you cough into a mic, oh, it's loud. Okay. 4, last question from Linus. What is your favorite performance piece right now? Oh, man. Favorite performance piece. Oh. I really like performing one of the pieces I wrote, which is called Burning Roots Sketch. I really like playing that one. It's short. It's got virtuosic things in it. It can really show off what the shakuhachi does. So I'd probably say that's the piece. Burning Roots Sketch number 1. Yeah, that's the one. Okay, cool. Let's move on to some more questions. Well, before we do that, we're going to quickly do another little advertisement. So I've seen that Copy Ninja signed up. We also had Leonid, Juan Pablo, and the Wandering Druid, and Suzanne, who all signed up for the membership. So welcome in all of you. Really happy to have you here. Thank you for supporting the channel. If you would also like to have access to, depending on your level, hundreds of videos for learning shakuhachi, hit the join button right here. And on there, you'll see that there is multiple options that appear. You'll get the Shoden Trial, the Shoden Lesson, the Chuden Lessons, and the Okuden. Each one basically has a certain amount of videos that along with them. I think Shoden is 20. The Shoden Lessons is like 70. Chuden makes it 100 and some odd, and then the Okuden gets even more, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of material in there for you to work with. I spent a lot of time making all of those videos. So when you sign up for that, you also have the chance of winning a free shakuhachi. And so, I mean, you're paying for the service, so it's technically not free. But I'll be giving out one of those shakuhachis to one of our subscribers on the membership, and I will pay the shipping. I pay all the costs. So it is no burden to you whatsoever. At any rate, for the lowest level, you get 1 ticket. For the second level, you get 2. Third level, you get 5, and then the fourth level, you get 10. There are levels after that. That stuff's not ready yet, so it's just basically a spoiler for things to come. Vincent asks here in the chat right now, I find myself very quickly flattening my notes on my U. Is it the flute or is it just me? Most likely it's you. And what's happening is as you blow, you're opening up the embouchure. So you're getting this, something like this. Something like that, and that's why the notes are flattening. You have to keep the embouchure tight as you play. Oh, Megas asks a really good question here, and it's actually a really great transition into a question that's coming up. So what is the copyright status of Honkyoku? Are they in public domain? Yes, all Honkyoku are in the public domain. Okay, so from V ... who's playing Kingdom 2 Crowns right now, instead of being into this chat, or maybe he's playing Kingdom 2 Crowns and is in the chat. So he says here, hey, is it normal to get really dizzy after a little practice? Yes, as a beginner, that's very common. You're gonna feel that sort of lightheadedness, dizziness, and it's just using too much air, and it's the type of breathing that you're using. You'll get better at that over time. So don't freak out. You don't have cancer. Don't search WebMD. Why am I lightheaded all the time? It's always cancer with WebMD. All right. Now the question I want to answer from Megus's question, which is, can honkyoku be considered classical music in the Western understanding of the term? This is from Audrey. So when we say the Western understanding of it, so people have this sort of feeling like there's multiple ways to talk about classical music. So we could say Wagner is classical music, and we can say that Bach is classical music, or Bartok is classical music. But what you really, I think what you mean is it galant music? Is it in the categories of like Mozart, Beethoven, Gluck, Haydn, Stamitz, and so on and so forth? And maybe in that definition, yes, because even within inside the classical music, there's like a way of writing. There's like kind of general agreed upon rules that people are working in certain harmonic, proclivities, we could say. And there are certain things in different schools of shakuhachi that have their kind of set phrases that they utilize, and which make them special. But shakuhachi is shakuhachi. They're sharing a lot of techniques. They're sharing a lot of breathing patterns. So yeah, and usually what we say is we actually call it koten honkyoku, which is classical honkyoku. Now, this is important. Honkyoku was only called honkyoku in the 20th century. Before that, in the Edo period, shakuhachi pieces were only referred to as kyoku, which just means pieces. They're just called piece, right? Not honkyoku, original pieces, right? So that's an important distinction to make, or thing to know, I suppose. Okay, a couple of questions here in the chat. Thank you so much, Ollie and SYD, for them. When you push your lower jaw forward using teeth alignment as a reference, is it more important to be aligned or to concentrate on the sound? That's a good question. I would say focus more on the sound, because you don't want to get stuck in what I call a posture. Rather, you would like to have poise. So the poise allows you to move freely. So if you have to adjust, you can. Because I believe that as you go medi, your lower jaw is going to come out more. And then you're going to disalign. Right? And then if there's other places where you'll go back and it will be aligned, or that it might even be the other way where you kind of go into more of a neutral position. So I would say concentrate on the sound. But it's not something I've really thought about deeply. SYD asked, how to tell whether if the flute or it's the player's skill? Do I need to let someone good with shakuhachi, or is there any other options? Okay, so you're talking about quality of the instrument. It's like basically, does the flute suck, or do I need to practice? So I'll ask you this first. What is the flute that you're using, right? Do you know who the maker is? Are they like a living, like popular maker who a lot of professionals use, or is it like a no-name? Is it one of like the plastic flutes or something like that? That would be the first thing I would ask. Let's say it's a no-name. It could be the flute. Let's say if it's the plastic ones, you're only going to get so much out of a plastic instrument. But let's say it's a brand name, right? Let's say you're talking Yozan, Gyokusui, Ichijo. Let's say you're talking about Kenji, like Ikegami-san, right? Or you're talking about like Nick Belando's flutes, or let's say Shugetsu, right? Any of these living famous makers who make really high-end stuff, it's most likely you. Now, that being said, it could be that there's a crack, like a hairline crack, and it's starting to leak air, right? And if the middle joint is loose, that's going to make it really hard to play Otsu no Do, for example, right? So this note that you want to play, but if the middle joint is loose, it's going to want to pop up to kan, because there's air leak. It just makes it much more difficult to get a bigger, rounder sound. So what I would recommend is that if you have somebody who's close by you that plays shakuhachi well, they might charge you a little bit of money for it, maybe like $30-$40. But here's what I'll tell you to do. Since you're on the membership, if you're on the Discord, upload a video of the flute and upload a little sound file of you playing onto the Discord. And if I don't get to it right away, one of my associate masters will, and they can help you with that, because they'll hear it and they'll go, yeah, something sounds a little bit funky with the flute. But you're saying there's a crack around the joint, so I would say that that's probably, if you're struggling with row, that might be the case. But upload a video there. We'll be happy to help you. Okay, so this was actually, this was from this morning. I was teaching one of my students, and his name's Robin, and he asked this really great question. And I wanted to add it to this chat here today, because I thought, oh, this would be really helpful for people who are learning shakuhachi and want to do pieces like this. So he asked this: in the fast sections between things like chi, hi, chi, de, is it okay not to cover the bottom two holes on hi? Are there any rules and regulations on fingerings in the faster sections of music? So what he means is something like this. So, like, let's say if you're playing a tune that has a constant turn like figure, like so, like something like that. Do you need to go? Do you have to place these two fingers down, or can you just play it like that? And the answer is yes. You can do either or. There's no rules about that on fingerings in faster sections. And so one of the examples I gave him was actually in one of the previous videos I did, a little short, on what people think is difficult on shakuhachi, which is versus what's actually difficult. And so in that fast passage that I played in that piece, or that little example, I go, I do that. So it's interesting because going up, that remarry, I don't use the bottom two holes because, and I don't know why, but it just feels more comfortable that way. But then going down, I use those bottom two holes. So there's no rule about it. I would just say whatever gets you the best sound and what feels the most comfortable in those faster sections. A lot of times with the faster sections of music too, once you just start building up the speed and you take it really slow, you'll figure out what fingering works best for you. As long as you're hitting the right pitch, that's what's the most important part. Because a lot of times with these fingerings, we use these fingerings because they have the best tone color. But if you're flying by, 60 miles an hour on the freeway, I mean, no one's really going to say, in that fast section, the he that you played, because you didn't cover those bottom two holes, the tone was just ruined. No one's going to say that. It's just ridiculous, right? So, yeah, you don't have to do that. Anytime like stuff like this too, you use whatever fingering that feels most comfortable with you. Great question, though. A great question, Robin, from this morning's lesson. So if you happen to watch this video later, thank you. All right. Demian. He has 3 questions here, and that would be the end of our Discord questions. So before we get to the end of the Discord questions, quick advertisement once again. You can hit that join button and get access to a bunch of lesson content. There are 4 lesson options: Shoden Trial, Shoden Lessons, Chuden Lessons, and the Okuden Lessons. We are also running an offer to win 1 of 4 Yozan beginner Shakuhachi flutes. So if you join the first level, you get 1 ticket. The second level, you get 2 tickets. The third level, you get 5 tickets. And the fourth level, you get 10 tickets. So sign up today. Okay, now back to Demian's questions here. How long does it take to actually get good on shakuhachi? I love that question. I have no idea. Okay, because I've had people who've come in for lessons who are absolutely beginners, who've never played at all, and after 3 years, they're actually sounding pretty darn good. Okay? I would be proud of them to go up on stage, start playing, and have an audience there. I think they sound very good. And they're only they're not even an Okuden level, they're Chuden. But they sound good, right? So there's a question here, and then okay, then on the flip side, I've had people who've been playing for 20 years, but it's been off and on, and they're just like, I'm just, I just like blowing into the flute. I don't really care about sounding that good. I just enjoy the action of it, right? So, but so how long? And actually, the 10,000 hours things, I would actually not use that one, right? Because it's not the amount of hours, it's the quality of hours that goes into it. So if you have 10,000 crappy hours, you're going to be a crappy player. Also consistency too, right? You can put 8 hours, or let's say you put 10 hours in every single weekend, right? Or let's say you do, okay, because that's like, that ends up being like a ridiculously amount of like 50 years or something. But like every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you put in 10 hours, right? And you do that for 1,000 weeks, right? You're still not going to sound that great because you don't have consistency. So how long does it take to actually get good on the shakuhachi? If you practice diligently every single day with reasonable amount of breaks, right? Like you say, look, I'm going to take a couple days off from practicing. I'm in a frustrated moment. I don't want to push it and just keep building myself in more frustration, right? Like that kind of stuff. And you take a couple days off. I would say that you can actually start sounding pretty good on the shakuhachi in 3 to 4 years. Which, that being said, is like, that's like great. Because like in violin, you put 3 to 4 years in it and you still sound bad, right? I know, I played violin, I played viola, and it took a long, long time to sound like actually good on the instrument. So, shakuhachi, yeah, 3 to 4 years of diligent practice with the teacher, and you'll be there. But again, I've had people that come in that actually sound pretty good after a year, right? Where they can play the tunes and they're playing in tune. They have some individual ideas that are coming out. But yeah, just and here's the other thing too is like, we can give out all these names and numbers and examples and whatever, but your time when you start to sound good and whatever, it's all up to the individual. And when just like, as they say, the stars align, as they say. For some people, they latch on really quickly, they get really good, but then they don't level up after that. And then some people are a slow burn. They just constantly get better slowly. And then there's some people who are just like, it feels like they're getting worse and worse and worse. And then out of nowhere, boom. And it's like, whoa, how did you get that good that quickly? I have a student like that. She blows my mind every single time. It's just like, I don't know if she's ever going to get any better. And then, boom, out of nowhere, she gets like gets up like 6 times better in like her performance. And it's just like, wow. And then it goes down again, and then, boom, this huge jump. So, yeah. All right. Damien has a second question here, which is, it seems like other flutes, like Shao, can give you a very good sound in a much shorter time, but the shakuhachi is a steeper learning curve. What are your thoughts on this? I agree. I absolutely agree. I think there's 2 things about this too. One, yes, the instrument is difficult to start. No matter how good the flute is that you have, it's a very difficult instrument to start. Right? Barrier to entry is high. Okay, we got that out of the way. Now, the second thing is, and I think I've mentioned this before in a previous live stream, which is that a lot of the flutes that we get, or that I've seen, and I think that it's kind of going away now. I think that but it still exists, but it's still there. It was a lot worse like 5 or 6 years ago. The quality of flutes that were being sent around like on Amazon and eBay, there were so many fakes and terrible instruments. And they were like, I bought a couple of them, and I made a video on it. Like, I bought a bad Amazon or a bad eBay flute so that you don't have to. And it was awful. Like it was not playable in terms of like the standards of actually like being a performing artist. Now, if you're gonna say it's like, oh yeah, but it has like these really unique tones that make it a unique flute, and like, half of the flute's wolf tones, and you got to learn the flute. Okay, I'm not talking about that camp of people. Okay, I'm talking about people who want to play in tune, in rhythm, all these sort of things, and play the music and line it with the pitches as it should be. There was a problem with a lot of those, homemade eBay, Amazon flutes, which caused a lot of problems for people starting the instrument because they could barely even make a good sound. Okay? And when I started, my first flute was one of those really bad flutes, and I finally broke down and bought the U after I was realized that this flute just sucks. I can't make anything out of it. And then I was like, wow, so it wasn't me, or it was actually was the flute. So having a really good instrument to start is very helpful. But that first initial sound that you're going to get is a steep learning curve. Okay, third question here. Okay, so Vasily clarifies what good. So I guess I have pretty high standards about what qualifies as good. But anyway, I'm hoping to get close by the time I hit 35, which gives me almost 6 years to work on it. Yeah, I think that in 6 years' time, you'll be fine. And again, the thing is consistency, though. You don't want to be taking, weeks off or a month off and then stopping and starting and stopping and starting. That's a recipe for disaster, and you won't make continuous growth. It is a daily thing with every once in a while taking a day or two off. But it's consistency. All right, so Vasily, your third question and the last question on the Discord. So if you guys have other questions that you would like to ask on this channel right now, please feel free to do so. And then I will let you know about when the next live stream is going to be. Okay, so Vasily's last question is, what are the reactions of Japanese people when you tell them you are a shakuhachi player? Disbelief is probably the most common one. Not because I play the instrument, but because it's my job. And so, I've walked out with my friend who is a mendicant. Like, he's an actual monk who lives off donations. He doesn't have another job, doesn't use savings, he only lives on what he's given. So if he doesn't get money, it means he doesn't eat that day. Okay, so when we were walking, we were walking, we met these obachans, these older ladies, and we're wearing samue and we have shakuhachis in our hand. We're talking and playing and whatever. And they stop us and they're like, "What are you guys doing? You guys do cosplay?" Like, no. He's a real monk. I'm a real shakuhachi player. So what I do for my job, I teach and I perform, and we're going on a hike together for shugyo, aesthetic training. And they go, "Wow, so." What do you guys do for a living? Like, I teach shakuhachi and play, and then he's a monk. No. We know what you do, but what do you do for money? Yeah, I teach shakuhachi and play, and he's a monk. And they're like, maybe they don't understand our Japanese, or maybe I'm saying something wrong in English. Money. How do you make it? Shakuhachi. Monk. So I think that's the biggest thing that we get, is that disbelief of they really don't think that we actually do this as a career. And so and I've had people who they've come over to my house and we're talking about doing a concert, or they want me to perform at their event or whatever, and like 9 times out of 10 the people ask me, "So what do you do for work?" And I go, "This, full time." And they go, "Wow, and you can," like, so the expression is, "Can you eat like that?" And meaning, like, can you actually afford things in your life? Because they're like, you must be like dirt poor broke, like completely broke. And I'm like, well, I'm not completely broke, right? I can pay my bills, right? But the general, that's probably the general reaction. It's not so much of the shock of playing the instrument as it is that that's what I do for my job and my work, and that's what I only do. So there you have it. That's the reaction. Okay, Ollie asked this in the main chat here. He says, to a new player, is there any difference between Kinko and Tozan? So this is a question I get often, and I think we actually had it in both of the last 2 live streams, but I'm totally happy to answer it again. I just want to let you know, and for people who are listening, this is a very common question, and it's a good question to ask. Because a long time ago, yes, there was a difference. Okay, so if you're talking like 100 years ago, the difference between a Tozan flute and a Kinko flute is big. So if you have a historical Tozan flute and a historical Kinko flute, yes, there is a big difference between them. But most modern flutes, you're actually going to get more difference between the maker then you're going to be getting between like somebody who's Tozan and someone who's Kinko. And so what I mean by that, like, let's see, let me think of like who would be a really good example to use. I don't think like Kinya Sogawa would be a good example of this, because he does like Jinashi stuff. I want to think with Giadi. He makes Giadi flutes too, but so let's take Yozan and Gyokusui, right? Yozan and Gyokusui both can make Kinko flutes and can make Tozan flutes. But their Kinko flutes, if you compare them together, sound completely different. And their Tozan flutes, if you compare them next to each other, sound completely different. Because what's more of like the effect is the way that Gyokusui makes his flutes, the way that Yozan makes his flutes, right? The way that Kinya Sogawa makes his flutes, the way that Ichijo makes his flutes, and the list goes on and on and on. I think there's another guy named Rome. Oh man, I can't remember his name. But yeah, there's another guy there. There's, let's see, someone else that I think of that's just off the top of my head. Like Shugetsu, for example, too, right? Put his Kinko flutes up to, Yozan's, completely different. So, all right. Mark says, and they say, oh, sugoi. Yeah. So, well, actually, no. So usually what I say, like, because this is called aizuchi, right? It's the things that you say to people to let them know that you're listening. So, for example, in English, if you're talking to someone, you go, yeah, okay, wow, very interesting. Something like that. Like, it's just words to fill the conversation to let the other person know that you're listening, right? They have those in Japanese too. So, in Japanese, one of them is, oh, sugoi. Asou nan desu ka? Naruhodo desu ne. Like, all that kind of stuff, right? And so, I tell them I play shakuhachi, and it's like, sugoi desu ne. Mezurashii janai desu ka? It's so rare to find someone who plays shakuhachi. It's then when the confusion happens of saying, this is what I do for work, and then they go, but people don't do that for work. They do that for fun. Ollie asked this question. Could you tell the difference between the 4 offered flutes blindfolded? You know what? Maybe. I bet I could. That might be a cool video to make too. So I have to have somebody here though to make sure that we're actually doing it properly. So maybe you got onto something. Can I tell the difference between these 4 flutes made by the same person who are all the same level? Yeah, that's a good one. I bet I could, but they're going to be really close because they're very like all of them are very similar to each other actually. Both in like just their dynamic range, their tone colors are pretty consistent. One's a little bit warmer than the others, but so I think that I'll be able to tell that one out right away, just because it does have a little bit more of a distinct tone, and then one is kind of loud, but then the 2 of them I might mix. But I think that would actually be pretty challenging. Yeah. So, but that might be a really interesting video, so I'll keep that in mind. See if I can have one of my friends come over and we can make it together or something like that. Challenging the ear. Can you hear the difference between these 4 flutes? I was over at another Shakuhachi player's house in California, and one of the things that was really interesting is he has a collection of flutes. Like I think he had like 7 or 8 with him there, and I brought like another 6 or 7 with me, and they're all like 1.8s, and we're just kind of playing around with them. And what we kind of noticed is that when I was playing them for him, he's like, God, man, I sound nothing like that when I play the flute. The flute sounds so different when I play it. And I think a big part of it too is that your individual mouth shape, your lip shape, the way that you use your air, the way that how you carry yourself and so on is going to be very different, and it's going to change the sound significantly on your instrument or in any instrument. So it's actually going to sound more like you than necessarily it's going to sound like the instrument when you get to that higher level. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about next week's live stream. So next week's live stream is going to be on the 2nd of September. And it will be at 10:30 a.m. Japan Standard Time. So 10:30 a.m. I cannot type that in right now. But anyways, so we started this one a little bit later as an experiment, and it's actually about the same number as last week. So we'll see how the earlier time works. That should be more helpful for our listeners in America. Still be kind of late. And then I'm going to try one other time after that, which is going to be 8 p.m. Or maybe we should do that one instead. Maybe we should do 8 p.m. Well, here's what I'll say. If you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell and then make sure you get all notifications so that way when I do upload that live stream for next week, you will know exactly what time it's going to be at. I'm starting to think that maybe like Japan 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. would be really nice because that's going to be, early afternoon in the in Europe, and then that will be morning time in the States. So it's hard here because we're dealing with like 6 different time zones to have people be able to watch this stuff and be a part of it. So, or if the live streams get bigger, then we can do multiple live streams throughout the week, or maybe do 2 live stream a week. But I think that can get a little bit too hectic. I think the one a week is really nice, especially on the Mondays. It feels pretty good, and it's also a Sunday in America, so people usually are not working at that time, anyways. So, final little thing here. Let's do another little offer. So we had a bunch of people sign up this time. We had from this video, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people join the different ranks here. So Suzanne joined the Shoden Trial. The Walking Druid joined the Chuden level. So hey, big spender, you got 5 tickets, my friend. Juan Pablo joined the Shoden Trial. Leonid joined the Shoden Lesson Series. That's level 2. And then Copy Ninja also joined the Shoden Trial. So welcome in, everybody. Really appreciate your support. Now, you too, if you would like to learn Shakuhachi and you would like to have just an extra tool, maybe saying you're already taking lessons or you're kind of teaching yourself on your own, if you want those extra tools, join the membership. There is hundreds of videos that you can learn from, and it's not just going through pieces. I have a technique series, I have all this other stuff, and when you join the highest level, the Okuden level, you actually get access to all of my concerts. So I mentioned here in my in this live stream that I'm having a concert. Is it next week or it's next weekend on Saturday. So that concert will be recorded and it will be put up on that membership. So you'll be able to watch that concert for free. Well, not free, but it's a part of your membership, so you don't have to pay the actual ticket price, which is actually, the ticket price is more than the membership fee. So you actually get quite a deal on that too. And then there will be another concert the week after that. That will also be uploaded as well. And we're having some other things that are happening throughout the year. So all of those stuff gets uploaded. There's also a bonus CD that you get. There are bonus lessons and so on and so forth. So highly recommend it for anybody who's really serious about Shakuhachi and would like to have an extra tool in order to get better. The live streams will keep going. I'm enjoying them myself. I hope that you are enjoying them and benefiting from them. Think of questions, and I will also open the live stream questions chat, open up a new one. Or actually, I'll probably just keep the same one here, but I'm just going to put a little bar, and then we'll say here for that new question. So if you ask new questions, we can answer those next week on our Monday live stream. And I think that is it. So thank you all so much for being here. We are 11,700 subscribers strong right now. Let's double check it. Let's refresh the page here and see what we got. So we have 11,769. We have gained almost 1,000 new subscribers in the past 28 days. So thank you all so much for your support, sharing videos, liking, and all that kind of stuff. Let's get to 15,000 and let's see what happens then. See you guys next time.